Welcome to the Metro YMCA's SACC Staff Training and Refresher Series. This session is focused on the importance of being able to connect, not correct, unwanted behaviors of our students. We are going to talk about why it is important to connect and not correct, and look at the unwanted behaviors and how we can better react to them. We usually think that kids do well if they want, and that misbehaving is a choice. But what if? What if it's not about their will or wanting to, but instead there's something else going on? What could be going on? Some students might not have the emotional language or the skills to meet the demands of the moment. They are unable to express how they feel, recognize the situation is temporary, that even if they try it a different way, they might succeed. It is our job to support them. So how do we do that? What if we think kids do well if they can? That is a huge shift that opens the door to collaboration and problem solving, not correcting and yelling. This belief means if a child is not doing well, we, as adults, are responsible for figuring out why. First, it's important to understand that all behavior is a way of communication. Behavior is the symptom of mismatch between expectations and skills. We need to be looking for clues. So, what is the first sign that something is wrong? Maybe it's changes in facial expression or body language, changes in tone of voice, repetitive movements such as rocking, tapping, or pacing, repetitive speech, noises that replace words, and hyperactivity or being withdrawn. Once we see something is wrong, we must respond so we can find connection and be supportive. Assume the best and check in, maybe saying, "Are you okay?" or "You seem to be off." Naming and validating those feelings, leading with empathy, remaining non-judgmental and open-minded. Slowing yourself down will help the child slow down. Now we are going to talk about certain unwanted behaviors and use the concepts we just spoke about in our responses. So, the challenging behavior. Questioning authority, attempting to draw the adult into a power struggle. So the connect, not correct response is give a rational response, stick to the topic, ignore the challenge, or set limits if the child persists, avoiding using sarcasm or rhetorical questions. And remember to remain calm. So for our next example, challenging behavior might be refusal to do tasks verbally or physically. So the connect, not correct response might be engage the child, not the behavior. Do not accept the invitation into the argument. Repeat directions and walk away. Give controlled and similar choices. Use when and then statements. Identify ways to engage the child. And catch them when they are engaged and praise them. Our next example of challenging behaviors is release of emotions. This might include full meltdowns, yelling, screaming, throwing things, hitting, running away, etc. Also, this includes high energy output, the logical brain is disengaged, and language processing is offline. So the connect, not correct response might be allow the child to let off steam. This includes control for safety, reduce number of people present, and acknowledging any signs of that child calming down. Our final example for challenging behavior is not staying on task. So the connect, not correct response might be limit setting. This is effective limits that are simple, clear, reasonable, and enforceable. When and then statements can allow a child to process what is to come next. So a few examples of those when and then statements are, when we finish the book, then it's time for centers. First, we'll finish the book, and then it's time for centers. So now we're going to go over some strategies that you can use throughout the day. The first strategy is using a countdown system. So an example of this might be you have 5 more minutes, and then it's time to clean up. Another strategy is pre-teaching. So pre-teaching might include reviewing the schedule for the day and always talking about what is to come next and discussing any changes from the typical day or routine. And finally, the third strategy is name and validate. You do not need to agree with the feeling to validate it. An example of this is, that was really hard for you, huh? You really didn't like that. Naming and validating a child's feelings can be extremely impactful. And when we do that, the child feels heard, understood, and therefore connected with you. Here are a few more strategies you can use. Allowing a space to de-escalate. This might include a child using the resources within the tranquil totes as a way to calm themselves down and re-regulate themselves, or having a quiet space for a child where adults are still present, but they can sit alone and quietly be with their thoughts. Another strategy is allowing a space to release. Children need to physically release their emotional energy, and this might include jumping jacks, running in place, or shaking out their bodies. Finally, having quiet activities present, such as coloring, drawing, or having sensory toys. So, grounding techniques are a great way to re-engage our thinking brain and slow down our emotional centers. So, some examples of grounding techniques might be mindfulness practices that force our attention on the movement, deep breathing, focusing on sensation of the breath, counting, naming, creating lists, progressive muscle relaxation, positive self-talk and visualization, and bilateral stimulation, movement that requires both halves of our brain, for instance, like walking. So again, using this grounding technique exercise, the 5-4-3-2-1, is a great tool to use, and kids really enjoy doing this activity and helps them feel more centered and in control of themselves again. Thank you everyone for watching this staff training and refresher series on Connect Not Correct. If you guys have any further questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to your mental health specialist for your district. Thanks again.